If you are sitting in your car right now trying to hold it together, or you feel a breakdown coming, or you just know that you are one bad day away from burning it all to the ground, this video is for you. Hello, my beautiful entrepreneurs. My name is Tabitha, and welcome to A Hot Mess Builds an Empire. I help day one entrepreneurs take that first terrifying leap into business ownership without completely losing their minds in the process. This channel is for the people who are standing on the edge of something really scary, but also really marvelous, wondering if they are unhinged for even considering the jump. I do want to toss out the reminder that on April 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the mess hall is launching. It is an entrepreneur community where we can get together, swap war stories, just hold each other accountable. There's monthly themes, monthly workshops, and I'm working on getting some guest speakers to join us every once in a while to share their golden nuggets of information. So if you're interested, it's just $5 for the session, and we're going to have a great time, truly. So I've never shared this story in full. I've said things before about getting robbed in Costa Rica and stuff like that, but I've never really dived into this story. And there's a lot that happened that led to my personal meltdown when it came to my business. And I want to share that story, and I want to talk about it because I think when we have breakdowns and meltdowns in entrepreneurship, we think it's because we're failing. We think it's because we've done something wrong. We think it's because nobody likes us or nobody likes our product or anything like that. And it doesn't have anything to do with that. So let me share my story, and let's talk through what I did. And I kind of want to prevent you from doing what I did because I I burned it to the ground, truly. So um it started in 2019. In August, I quit my full-time job officially to pursue being a full-time travel photographer and partial travel blogger. I went to Costa Rica on a one-way ticket because that's how committed I was to it. I had a one-way ticket for a few weeks in Costa Rica and a one-way ticket to Peru, and I was going to work my way down through South America. And um I was 11 days into my trip in Costa Rica, and one absent-minded moment, I was traveling in between cities, and I had pulled over to take pictures of the sunset. It was beautiful. It was just on a beach, and there were all these boats, and this light was coming in, and it was beautiful. And I'm gonna try and find the photo, and maybe I'll interject it here in the video, but um, it was just really cool and really beautiful. And I made a panorama of it. Um, like I just was so into it. And I went back to my car and it was open. My backpack was gone that was sitting on the front seat. And petty theft is very common in Costa Rica. And I knew this, and I just was out of the car for 5 minutes. I wasn't gone very long. Um, but that backpack had my SD cards in it, my camera equipment, my chargers, my passport, my credit cards, my laptop, um, my backup drives, everything that I needed for my business to survive, everything that I needed to travel between countries, my identity, to prove who I was, all of it was gone. All of it was gone. Um, in 5 minutes. So that's what happened there. I relied on friends, um, for money to help me get a hotel for a few days while I had to wait on the US Embassy to prove who I was and um, get an emergency passport from them so that I could go back to the States. I had to cancel my Peru ticket. I had to fly back to the United States because what was I going to do in Peru without any of my gear? except the camera that I happened to have in my hand. And that was not my breaking point. It was a breaking point, but it was not the official breaking point. Um, I had a gig in Iceland a couple months later, which did not go well because I actually ended up getting very sick and I had pneumonia really bad. Um, so I kind of messed up a relationship with a client there, and it was just, it was bad timing, right? It was bad timing. And then I went to World Travel Market, which I highly recommend going to if you're in the travel industry. And I got all these clients and contracts ready for 2020. And I even had a job lined up with Delta Airlines to become a flight attendant, um, to help with the travel aspect of my life. And everybody knows what happened in 2020, right? We all experienced the global pandemic. I'm not going to act like I was the only person who experienced that, but I lost all my contracts. I lost the job being a flight attendant for Delta Airlines, and I was able to score one job with a client for $1,000, um, which required me to drive from Pennsylvania to Virginia Beach, which was not a big deal. I was happy to do it. Um, and as I was literally holding the camera in my hand, taking pictures for the client, my phone rang, and I found out that my father died, who I was decently close to. And it's not just a matter of my dad died. My is trigger warning for anybody in mental health, but my father took his own life. And that was the breaking point. I remember sitting in my car and just, I lost it. I had to call the client and tell them I needed to go home, that I would need to have an extension. Um, I was like an 8 or 9 hour drive away from home at that time. Um, and I just knew I wasn't going back into photography. I just, not like knew it on the surface, but something deep inside me was like, I'm done with this. I can't keep being an entrepreneur. And um, I went back home. My dear friend stayed on the phone with me the whole drive. When I got gas, when I stopped for food, when I stopped to pee, she stayed on the phone with me the whole time to make sure that I wasn't by myself driving, because I was unhinged, right? Like in the worst way possible. And um, you know, there's this weird moment of grief and disbelief that happens in these situations. And I got home and I just decided I was done. I slept a lot. I mean, and everybody experiences grief differently, truly. And 2020 was a hell of a time for a lot of people, for a lot of things, for a lot of the same reasons, actually. But I just decided I was done. I was. And I got a job at the local photography studio for a couple years. I maybe posted on social media every once in a while just to like be like, hey, what's up? But I made my account private. I unfollowed a lot of things that were just horrible reminders of a life that I wasn't going to live anymore. And um, I knocked people off who were following me so, they couldn't see what I was going through because I just didn't think it was appropriate anymore. And that's kind of where my meltdown was. I stopped everything and I just let myself be sad and be um numb for 2 years. For 2 years. And in like 2020, end of 2022, um I started to want to reach out to people again. I reconnected with some friends. The world kind of started to open up a little bit, and I traveled a little bit here and there, but It wasn't anything for clients. It wasn't anything to blog about. It wasn't anything to take pictures of. Half the time I would bring my camera and I wouldn't even touch it. Um, and I just quit. I was like, no, not doing it, not doing anything. And then something happened, a conversation, a moment, a somebody caught me at the right moment at the right time and inspired me to get back into world her story. Not photography, not traveling, not anything, but to get back into my world her story brand. And I did. I did. And I had been posting about it since like 2019 or something like that, but I finally launched the podcast in 2023. And amazing things started to come from that. And I was like, okay, um, maybe I'll see where this goes. And I was in and out of it, in and out of it. Um, and then I started working full time again in a warehouse and I had good benefits. I was making good money again. It was consistent income and I just let that be my life for a year. And then something inside me was like, no, that's not good enough. I need to be my own boss. I need to get back into my own company. I need to get back into doing my own thing. And I wasn't sure what that was going to look like because I had given up so much. I had burned so much to the ground. I had been robbed of literally tens of thousands of photos, my backups, my SD cards, my laptop, everything. I had been robbed of all of that and it was starting from scratch and I was like, "Do I want to start from scratch as a photographer?" And I didn't. I still do videos and filming and stuff like that, but um at this point in time now I've actually sold my camera and I have you can kind of see it in the background. I have just like a smaller Sony camera sitting on the tripod right there. Um but I sold my Canon Mark IV. Um and it was just a very liberating sell. I was holding that camera when I got the phone call about my dad and there was something about letting it go. Just her name was Eleanor. She served me well and but it was time to let that attachment go. And there was a lot of peace that came with that. Um but what I had to realize is that my breakdown was not a failure. My breakdown was valid. They were feelings, it was grief, it was a whole mess of stuff that happened. And I think the cocktail that nobody talks about too is like there's isolation as an entrepreneur. There was isolation during a global pandemic. And there's loss and then there's financial pressure and it was just a lot and I needed to come back to life somehow and I didn't know how to do that. So I just kind of went through the motions. I went through just anything to survive like financially. This is how I'm going to pay my bills this month. This is, there was no like creativity happening. There was no like I'm going to do this. And I really wish I had some type of entrepreneurial community at that time to pull me out of it quicker. I think quitting is not an option, and I took that option. Um, so if you're in it right now, quitting is not an option. Your feelings are valid. They're so valid, and the want to quit is going to be there, but maybe it's time to pivot. Maybe it's time to rebrand. Maybe it's time to restructure. Let yourself have your meltdown. Let yourself be in your feelings. Let yourself cry in the car and slam the steering wheel and honk at things that aren't really there and make people look at you while you're sitting in the grocery store parking lot, you know, but don't quit. And I really wish somebody would have told me that. I really wish somebody would have said, have your meltdown, but give yourself like a time frame that at this time you're going to wake up and create something, whatever it is that that looks like. Wake up and create something in anger. Wake up and create something in sadness. Wake up and create something with the negative emotions that are stirring inside of you, but create. And I wish somebody would have really dived into that with me, because instead, what I got was just support for the loss of everything that was going on, right? And everybody was trying to figure out this global pandemic, and everybody was trying to figure out the new world we were walking into. And there was so much going on that, you know, entrepreneurship was not at the top of conversation. It really wasn't. And the combination of the situation was just so uniquely brutal. But I still wish somebody would have been like, okay, give yourself a month, and in a month, create something. Or go out on a hike, touch grass, drink water, right? Like I gained so much weight because I just slept and ate and drank soda, and it was just a mess. It was a mess. You'd fake the smiles and tell everybody you were fine just to not have to have the conversation that you weren't fine. And the there's just something about being a day one entrepreneur. There's something about being a new entrepreneur. It's already isolating, that to have nothing to, like, no one who gets it to go to and just be like, I'm having a meltdown about being an entrepreneur. I'm thinking of burning it all down to the ground. Talk me out of it. So, this is what I want to offer you. This is not, please use my Stan store and buy something from me. It's not. If you're sitting in your car right now and you feel like you are going to just burn it all to the ground, I want you to stop, take a breath. If you have something to drink, take a drink, preferably water. Gulp the water down if you can. It's actually very good for anxiety. And I want you to message me on Instagram at tabitha.bear, bear like the animal, Bear. I want you to message me on Instagram and let me know, hey, I'm in it right now. I'm in it, and I will answer as soon as I can. As soon as I get the message, I will answer as quickly as I can. And we'll talk through it, because quitting is not an option. Being in your feels, that's an option. Having the meltdown, that's totally valid and an option. But don't quit being an entrepreneur, because there's something that I've learned, and that's that there are people who are using what it is that I've created. And there are people who kind of need me. There are people who need my service. There are people who need my help. And that's going to be the same for you too. Whatever it is that you create, whatever it is that you do, people need you. People need your business. They need your product. They need your service. Even if you don't see that right now in this moment in time, I assure you that that's true. So do not feel like a failure because you're in your feels, because that's not going to help you get anywhere. You're not a failure. You're a human being. You're complex. You have emotions. You're allowed to react emotionally to things that are happening. You're allowed to react emotionally to things that maybe are not going too well. Maybe it was a public failure and you're feeling very embarrassed right now. Maybe it was just you had a really good client and you messed up and you think this is the end of it. Whatever it is that happened, I'm sorry that that's happening to you, but talk to me about it. Just reach out to me on Instagram and just be like, "Hey, I'm going through it right now. I'm thinking of burning it all to the ground, and I just want to talk it out with someone who gets it." Because I do, I get it. I get quitting being an entrepreneur, and that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Grieving, no regrets. You're allowed to grieve. Being upset, you know, I I grieved so much, right? I lost several people in 2019, and then I lost my father in 2020. And I lost my photos, and I lost what was going to be my travel photography career, and I just let myself lose it, and I let myself quit. And I think, hindsight's 2020, but I think that was 100% the wrong thing to do. So I know this is a more somber video, a more, macabre episode, but I just think it's really important that we have this conversation because it exists. This kind of stuff exists. The wanting to quit, the wanting to burn it down, the wanting to end it all because you just can't handle it. Whether it's family pressure, your children, your finances, your full-time job, your schooling, whatever it is that you're in the middle of where you're just like, I can't do this. I'm going to stop and I'm gonna live the 9 to 5 life. I know that when we are all entrepreneurs, we're entrepreneurs for life. If you've already started that journey, it means you aren't meant for the 9 to 5. It means you aren't meant for someone to be your boss. It means you aren't meant to wear a uniform or live according to somebody's rules or to always be in an HR office because you just can't quite handle the landscape of whatever crockery is going on at your company. You're always going to be an entrepreneur. So don't quit. Have your moment, you know, sit in the car, cry it out, bang the steering wheel, listen to heavy metal music. Uh, Good old fashioned 90s alternative rock works for me, just screaming it at the top of my lungs. Drink some water, touch some grass, and message me on Instagram. And we'll talk through it. We'll talk through it. We'll voice message each other, we'll text each other, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. And we'll talk through you wanting to quit because I just don't think you should quit. I think you should keep going. I think your feelings are valid, like I said before, and I think you should feel your feels, but I don't think you should quit. So, like I said, very somber episode today. I do want to remind you that the mess hall starts on April 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I just feel like starting an entrepreneur community for my beautiful entrepreneurs out there is just so crucial because this journey can feel so isolating. And there are moments like this that are very real and very sensitive and very dark and deep that sometimes it's really good to know that you have someone you can reach out to in your community and just go, hey, I'm having a really tough time. Can we talk? And this is part of the reason why I started the mess hall. Yes, for the happy go lucky stuff. Yes, for showing you guys how to do stuff and having workshops and connection and accountability and all of the fun, amazing things. But for stuff like this too, because it happens. Life happens. We are complicated people with complicated emotions, and life happens and it can really, really knock the wind out of you, can really knock you down. But don't let you quit, right? That's not allowed. Don't quit being an entrepreneur. Take it from someone who did quit being an entrepreneur. I would be so much further than where I am right now if I didn't quit for like 2 years. But also, I wouldn't be where I am. So there's like a little give and take on that. I try to silver lining it right now. Like, I wouldn't be where I am if I quit, like I think everything would look a little differently. But I'm here now, right? And I'm really enjoying what it is that I'm doing. So I'm trying to look on the bright side of me quitting and me coming back. But I hope you don't quit. Please don't quit. You know, somebody out there needs your product and service. They really do. So have your emotional time. Message me on Instagram and we're going to get through it together. You don't have to be alone in this. You really don't. And your first meltdown is nothing to scoff at because there's going to be many more meltdowns and breakdowns about being an entrepreneur, but they don't have to be alone. They don't. Okay? Okay. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you're okay. If you're in a spot while watching this right now, I hope you're okay. And please like this video. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I will see you guys next time.